In this video, we will talk about abolishing compulsory government public schools, an objectivist epistemological case for a free market of private educational options in an anarcho-capitalist society. In an anarcho-capitalist society where all interactions are strictly voluntary, all property is privately owned, and no institution possesses a legal monopoly on the initiation of physical force, compulsory government schooling cannot exist. Its very structure requires taxation, theft of earned wealth, and compulsory attendance laws, kidnapping by decree. The question, then, is not merely pragmatic, but fundamental. Why must such an institution be abolished, root and branch, and why must it be replaced by a multitude of competing private educational enterprises? The answer lies in objectivist epistemology, the science of how man acquires and validates knowledge. Objectivism holds that reality exists independent of any consciousness. The primacy of existence, that the only means of gaining knowledge is reason, the faculty that identifies and integrates the evidence of the senses through logic, and that concepts are objective, formed by a process of abstraction and measurement-omission grounded in perceptual data. A proper education is the deliberate, systematic training of a child's rational faculty, teaching him to perceive reality accurately, to form concepts hierarchically without contradiction, to validate every step by reference to observable fact, and ultimately to use his mind as a tool of his own survival and flourishing. Anything that subverts this process is not education. It is anti-education. Government schooling, even at its theoretical best, is anti-education by its nature. It rests on two primal violations of reason: the initiation of force and the collectivization of the mind. The epistemological corruption inherent in coercion. Force and reason are opposites. Reason is volitional. Force is the negation of volition. When the state compels attendance and finances education through compulsory taxation, it severs the causal link between effort and reward, between value offered and value received. The child learns at the most fundamental level that knowledge is not something one gains by the active self-initiation use of one's mind, but something dispensed by authority, ultimately by the barrel of the taxation collector's gun. This is not peripheral flaw. It is an epistemological catastrophe. Concept formation requires the active integration of observations when the context is obey or be punished, and the child's mind learns to substitute compliance for cognition. The result is not a conceptual faculty, but a range of the moment concrete bound mentality, or worse, a second-hander who looks to others for prepackaged truths. In contrast, a purely private market in education restores the volitional nexus. Parents choose a school because they judge it offers superior value for the child's mind. Teachers and administrators are paid by voluntary exchange. Their livelihood depends on demonstrable results judged by the only objective standard possible, the child's growing ability to deal with reality. If a school teaches fuzzy math, anti-conceptual history, or the primacy of consciousness, parents can withdraw the money and their child. The market penalizes error immediately. No bureaucracy can insulate failure. The destruction of hierarchical knowledge. Objectivist epistemology insists on hierarchical structure. Every concept rests on prior concepts, every generalization on perceptual data, every principle on a chain of reasoning traceable to the axiomatic. Government schooling systematically severs this hierarchy. Curricula are dedicated by political majorities, bureaucrat committees, or ideological pressure groups. The sequence of learning is determined not by the requirements of conceptual development, but by the calendar of legislative sessions and the fashions of the intellectual establishment. Subjects are presented as disconnected social studies rather than an integrated application of reason to existence. Values clarification exercises replace the teaching of objective values derived from the requirements of man's life as a rational being. The child is taught, implicitly or explicitly, that truth is determined by consensus, by authority, or by emotional whim, precisely the epistemological inversions Objectivism identifies as the root of every tyranny of the mind. Private schools operating under competitive pressure cannot afford such luxury. A school that guarantees students unable to read, calculate, or reason will lose customers to one that does. Specialization emerges naturally. Some schools may emphasize rigorous mathematical foundations for the earliest grades. Others may integrate philosophy and logic as core disciples. Still, others may focus on scientific method applied to the physical world. Parents, acting in their rational self-interest, select the combination that best equips their particular child. The market discovers through trial and error, guided by profit and loss, which pedagogical methods actually produce rational, independent minds. No central planner possesses the omniscience required to dictate a single correct curriculum for millions of unique individuals. The rights of the child and the responsibility of the parent. Objectivism requires that a child is a human being with rights, not a blank slate belonging to the collective. Rights, however, are not exercised in a vacuum. A child lacks the developed rational faculty to exercise them fully. The parent, therefore, bears the moral responsibility and the corresponding right to direct the child's upbringing, including his education, until the child reaches maturity. This is not ownership of the child, but a trusteeship exercised in the child's long-range rational interest. Compulsory government schooling transfers that trusteeship to the state by force. It declares, in effect, that the collective has a superior claim to the child's mind. This is the exact inversion of the objectivist ethics of rational egoism. The child is sacrificed to the public good, defined by whoever holds political power. In an anarcho-capitalist society, no such transfer is possible. Parents retain full authority over their children's education and must finance it voluntarily through their own earnings, through contracts with employers who offer educational benefits, through mutual aid societies, or through genuine charity motivated by the donor's own values. Those who cannot or will not provide education face the natural consequences of their choices. They do not require the right to seize resources from their own responsible neighbors. Critics sometimes object that poor would be left without education. This objection collapses under objectivist scrutiny. In a free society, wealth is created by production, not redistributed by force. The same market forces that drive down the price and increase the quality of every other good, food, clothing, housing, medicine, apply to education. Historical evidence from the pre-compulsory era in the West and from modern private tutoring markets show that literacy rate rose dramatically through voluntary means long before government monopolies. In anarcho-capitalist order, entrepreneurial innovation, online platforms, modular curricula, apprenticeship contracts, charitable endowments tied to the performance metrics would multiply options at every price point. The notion that the only state can ensure education is the same fallacy that once claimed that only the state could ensure mail delivery or road construction. It ignores the creative power of self-interest, reason operating in freedom. The epistemological superiority of competition. Monopoly breeds stagnation. Competition breeds excellence. Government schooling is the ultimate monopoly. Compulsory purchase, compulsory consumption, and immunity from market test. Its customers cannot fire it. Its suppliers face no risk of bankruptcy for failure. The predictable result is intellectual decay, declining standards, ideological capture, and the elevation of process over product. Teachers' unions protect the incompetent. Administrators expand bureaucracy. Curricula reflect the latest anti-reason fad because no price mechanism weeds out error. A multitude of private options reverses every pathology. Schools that teach the primacy of existence and the supremacy of reason will attract parents who understand that their child's life depends on his ability to grasp reality. Schools that peddle subjectivism, collectivism, or emotionalism will lose enrollment and revenue. The profit motive, properly understood as the reward for creating value, aligns the self-interest of educators with the rational interests of students and parents. Innovation flourishes. New methods of concept formation, individual pacing, based on cognitive development, integration of technology that actually augments reason rather than replacing it. The epistemological standard. Does this method produce graduates capable of independent, reality-oriented thought? Because the only standard that matters, enforced daily by the voluntary choices of paying customers. Conclusion. Reason demands freedom. From the objectivist epistemological perspective, the case is unanswerable. Man's life depends on the correct use of his rational faculty. That faculty is not automatic. It must be trained. Any institution that trains it by coercion, finances it by theft, and directs it by political fiat necessarily subverts the very method it claims to teach. In an anarcho-capitalist society where force is barred from human relationships, compulsory government public schools are not merely unnecessary, they're impossible without reintroducing the state. Their abolition is therefore not a policy performance, but a moral and epistemological imperative. What replaces them is not chaos, but the ordered liberty of the market. Thousands of competing schools, tutors, curricula, providers, and learning communities each strive to demonstrate superior efficiency to rational parents. The result will be a generation of minds trained to perceive, to conceptualize, to judge, and to act. The minds equipped to sustain a free society because they have never been taught to surrender the one tool that makes freedom possible, their own reason. The alternative is the perpetuation of the anti-conceptual mentality that has always been the nursery of statism. Objectivism demands we choose reason. Anarcho-capitalism provides the only social system consistent with that choice. Therefore, compulsory government schooling must be abolished completely, immediately, and without apology, in favor of the vibrant, voluntary, and epistemologically sound multitude of private educational options that a free mind and a free market alone can produce. Thank you for watching today's video, and see you in the next video.